Hey everybody, it's Brian here, and we have a little bit of a special episode for you here today. Coach Arnie earlier this week did a Facebook Live in our Hike Club Grand Canyon Facebook group. And if you're on there, you might have seen him practicing in the days leading up to it, getting the technical know-how down the best that he could. But ultimately, Coach pulled it off. And I listened in on it, and it was just a treasure trove of information as Coach sat there for an hour and in his own way answered people's questions and talked about feet and walking backwards and shoes and other canyon-specific things such as hiking in the heat and just practice. So I thought that this was something that we should turn into a podcast, especially when it comes to health and training and what to eat, nutrition, all that stuff from the man himself, Coach Arnie Fonseca Jr., our resident exercise physiologist and canyon coach. So, without further ado, here is Coach Arnie. Take it away, Coach.
So Coach Arnie is here, and let's see how many people we get in here, but I'm going to start off by just a quick introduction, and then we'll just get rolling here. Appreciate everybody being here, and if you're not here and if you're listening to this later, that's great. We've got some good questions to get started with. First off, I want to thank Pat Garner for kind of initiating this after we had a great live event at the dungeon. One part that got left out of the Zoom call, since with our cameras overheated and stopped, and the batteries stopped, but regardless, was we had a really neat Q&A session the last half hour, 45 minutes, where the ladies just asked lots of questions, and I did the best I could to answer as many as I could. And that, in many ways, that was the best part, because we all have questions about this amazing place that we want to visit and have adventures in. And so hopefully me, Coach Arnie, can help you guys. And I know there's a lot of that out there as well in our community. So she kind of pushed me to, hey, you need to do something like that online. I said, okay. So here we are. And thank you to Brian Special for his putting all this together with his community, with our community. And he put up some really cool pictures. So I'm just going to get rolling here. And most of you know me, but if you don't know me, I am an exercise physiologist. I'm 67 years old. I didn't get to the Grand Canyon until I was 55, so got time. And we first went there, and this drive drove a lot of people crazy initially, but my first encounter with the canyon with my daughter and her husband was an R3. And everybody I told that to, they said, you can't do that. And I said, why not? Because my background is from the athletic side, is as a strength athlete, not a runner. I did do a lot of triathlons and stuff back about almost 50 years ago. But I am I fell in love with ultra running and all that stuff. Was able to train with some really neat people. Some of you may have heard of Aravipa, and did some really cool things with them, and just fell in love with it. But I had no idea there was stuff that was called ultra. What is this? And then found the Grand Canyon. Always wanted to get there, but never got there till I was 55. And having done marathons and stuff, I thought, well, why would I do a rim to rim? That sounds too complicated. Just go all the way across and come back. So that's what we did. Now, it didn't end well for my son-in-law, but I fell in love with the place. And we were back there the following year, and we had another mishap with my son-in-law. So he's actually 0 for 3, but don't tell him that. And but I continued to fall in love, and then went on and did some long 100-mile races and other things. But the canyon was always pulling me back. And then I came back, well, I don't know, 2018, 19, and just started going down there, and then a friend of mine had done what's called an R5, and I at that point, I thought I was curious enough to ask what the heck, how do you even train for that? And so first thing I did was he told me, and I went. He wanted me to do a rim to river, and then and a rim to rim to rim, but he goes, don't ever do the rim to rim to rim first because that's really hard and it's a great accomplishment, and so you may not want to do the rim to river. So I did a rim to river and then a rim to rim to rim, and it was hard. But that started, then COVID hit, but I just kept going and kept going, and I did an R5. No one even knew about it. I call it my quiet R5, and it was hard. It was a lot of work, and then I was encouraged to do it again, and most of you that are here probably heard about that thing. That was a couple years ago, and but the canyon is a wonderful place. I've learned a lot, and I want to share a lot. I do a lot of work with, my background is brain and spinal cord, so I do a lot with pain and body mechanics, movement patterns, all that stuff, and I study that stuff, and it's really been a blessing to be able to help a lot of the folks here with stuff, you know, using those skill sets. So, um, and if I can help you, that's even greater. So I'm going to start off with some questions that we've been sent in here. I guess you guys can just type in questions, and hopefully this thing went out. That's my that's my curiosity with technology. Was talking to somebody yesterday, and he was losing his mind with technology because we didn't grow up with this stuff. But I'm learning. So hopefully it's going, and I have Pats out there, and other people are going to give me some heads up and let me know that it's going good. So I'm going to start off. Somebody asked, what 4 exercises would you do every day for rim to rim in early October? Great question. Um, First thing I would do every day, first thing you have to get healthy. So let's assume that we're healthy here. But I would do every day I would walk backwards. I would walk backwards. Okay. I would do something for my feet. I mean, whether it is working on my big toe, we balance on what's called a mobile board, but there's a lot of things you can do. I have an exercise that's called spring foot, and I have a modified spring foot where we work on balancing on our big toe and our basically what we're doing there is working on the fascia, the tendons in the foot. Okay. So that would be done every day. Every day is kind of a crazy question, but I definitely wouldn't be moving forward every day unless I was healthy. But you could walk every day if you were healthy. And then, but what I would do on a regular basis, I would work on my anterior tibialis. We do what's called a tib raise for that. There's a couple different ways you can do that. And that's working the muscle in the front of your leg from your knee down to your ankle, the anterior tibialis. It is so valuable. If you only knew, and those that work with me know how valuable it is, especially on the downhill, because everything I teach is about the downhill. Okay. And then the second thing I would work, the other muscle that I would work very consistently, at least twice a week, is the hip flexor. That's the muscle between the hip, the thigh and the abdomen. Okay. So important. So important. Because, and again, I'll say it once, you may hear me say it 10 more times, is that if you have knee pain, it's not because you have a bad knee. It's because you probably have weak feet or weak hips, glutes, hips. It's either your foot or your hips. It's generally not your knee unless you got hit by a truck. Okay? But weak hips cause knee pain. Weak feet cause hip misalignment, which causes knee pain. Get it? So we got to strengthen up the feet and the hips, and your knee is fine. We protect the knee. So that's what we work on. All right. So those are 4 things right there that I would be doing like today. And let's go, chop, chop. But if you're not walking backwards and then eventually against resistance walking backwards, you're making a mistake. Okay. And if you're just out there you're going to pound your way into submission to get in shape, Well, good luck. It might work. Works for some people, doesn't work for others. I want you to my goal for everybody that does the canyon is to come out of there with a smile on your face and pain-free. That's the goal. Gotta have a smile and you gotta be pain-free or it's, it's a long day. All right? All right, guys. So here's another question. Flatland training for a rim to rim. That's a great question. I get this question all the time. That's what I do. That's what I do. You know, I just mentioned the number one flatland exercise, walking backwards. And if you walk backwards with resistance, pulling a sled, pulling tires, I was showing, put up a video yesterday about with pushing a car. That was for the prowler. But with the car, you can also put your butt on the bumper of the car and push it backwards. So you're working those same muscles again. Because why are we doing that? Because when you go downhill, okay, when we go downhill, you're putting stress on the hip, the glutes, the hamstrings, okay, the anterior tibialis, the foot. And so that's what we want to train. Because if you want to have a good experience in the canyon, is you want to get down to Phantom Ranch or wherever you're going and not be beat up. The problem is so many people I talk to them every day, they think you're supposed to be beat up from going downhill. That's insanity, okay? You train for that. You train for everything in the canyon. You should not have any um surprises. I mean, look, injuries happen, you get sick, but you also learn how to manage that too, okay? And so you shouldn't be surprised like, "Oh, geez, that was hard." No, you weren't ready. You weren't ready. So you train for 5,000 feet of downhill. Okay? That's just the way it is. You train for that. And so the way you do that with heavy reverse pulls, what I call backwards walking with resistance. And if you can't do that because you're not healthy enough yet, then you start walking backwards without anything. I've had people start off for a month just walking backward. And then we start adding weight to them. And then we start adding more weight. And before you know it, they're doing a lot of weight. But you can figure that out too. All you gotta do is message me on that. But I mean, I put a lot of videos up, but at the same time, you can get a tire, you get a chain, and a waist belt that you can put around your waist. And for a few dollars down at Home Depot and an old tire you find somewhere, I've even had people go to tire shops and ask them if they can have an old tire. And guess what they do? Sure. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of ways around this, and then you can put weight in that tire too. You can also walk backwards up a hill. That's a good one, but you gotta be careful on the downhill that you're not overdoing it unless you're ready. If you're ready, that's fine. But backwards, and then we just do so many exercise, strength, because people are surprised as well when I tell them that I only hiked 1 day a week when I did my R5. That's for almost 90 miles, guys, and I hiked 1 day a week. Why was I able to do that? Well, that's my whole system. The whole system is if you strength train, if you do the appropriate muscles, and there's nothing bad about squats and deadlifts and all that stuff. Look, I'm a former powerlifter. I did all that stuff. But when you're doing canyon specific exercises, I mean, canyon specific exercise. Because people come back from the canyon that work with me and say, wow, that really made a difference. And that's what I want to hear. Because I know it made a difference for me. And I know that it'll make a difference for you. But canyon specific exercise for you flatlanders will get you into the canyon and out of the canyon with a smile on your face and pain free. It just will. If you train hard and you earn it. You're not going to go to the canyon and just kind of lollygag your way into it. You got to earn it. You got to work hard. And it doesn't mean you're out there running marathons. It means you're training those canyon muscles appropriately and then you're working on those, down specific downhill movements you could like with the oh, I get a notes here from Facebook. Um So the point is yes, that is possible. And for any of you that are interested, because we got other questions here, You can always message me. We'll figure out a time to talk, and I can help you with that too. Flatland training is not a big deal. It's not, okay? All right, third question here. What type brand of shoes um, would I recommend? That's a tricky one. And I'm gonna explain my theory behind that. I came up with a concept years ago with somebody, a good friend, and we called it shoe proof. So if you appropriately train, and I am feet obsessed, just so you know, if you appropriately train your feet, if you strengthen your feet the right way, ask anybody that comes to see me. We're doing foot stuff. We actually kind of got into it this morning. One of the ladies there that was dealing with a little hip problem. She finally said, "Oh man, I finally realized, Coach Arnie was right with all this foot stuff." But that's fine. But I don't want to be right. I want you to be better. So if there's foot things you need to be doing, then you need to be doing them. And it's all over the place. But you've got to make a commitment that that's what you're going to do. So if you're going to work your feet, work your feet. We do hard foot training at least twice a week, but you can do mobile board training. You can do toe exercises. I do that stuff every single day. So, back to the previous question, that's an everyday thing. I think I said that, but working your feet. You gotta work your feet, okay? And we continually work our feet. And so, once you have strong feet, okay, now now you're in the driver's seat when it comes to shoes. Now, when we were d when we were coming up with this theory, now you just gotta find a shoe that fits, okay? Because before I did all this stuff, if I had a low drop, 4 millimeter, 8 millimeter, flat foot, that foot, this supinator, whatever nader shoe. It would hurt me. Get it? People would be surprised. The year I did my R5, I was buying used shoes, hiking shoes, online and having them shipped to my house because I knew and some of them didn't fit great, but I knew I was tearing them up on the mountain. So I just bought used shoes, you know, because my feet were strong. And as long as the shoe fit, I mean, if it didn't fit, the couple came in this stuff. But as long as they fit, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Then you're not under you're not a prisoner of a podiatrist or some other nonsense stuff because people that see me do not get plantar fasciitis. And most of the time we can get rid of it. If we get those arches stronger and those toes stronger, plantar fasciitis goes away and you're not going to get it. And strengthening those arches, all that stuff is so important. And if you're doing all that stuff, it doesn't matter what shoe brand you wear, just find one that works. It fits good. When I go to the canyon, my canyon shoes are I finally got a pair of the nice padded ones because that's like rocket fuel to me because most of the time I'm barefoot. And so when I put on a padded shoe, bam, here we go. And so you can do the same thing, but you got to have strong feet. If you don't have strong feet, then you're going to do what your podiatrist tells you to do. You're going to buy the expensive orthotics. You're going to get the special shoes, and the shoe guy or shoe lady is going to see you come and go. All right, here we go. Get out the good stuff. And instead of, well, here's old Coach Arnie buying used shoes online. Okay. So that's my best answer to that. I don't have I wear, to say, I wear topos, but I'm leaning back into ultras. They just don't make a high top shoe that I like. But ultras changed their shoe design. Their uppers are now a little bit more, because I have a narrow foot. So their uppers, before when I was wearing ultras, my foot would slide around in there, but now they've changed that. And I've seen Pat and my sister wearing ultras, and I like the design, so I may go back and check those out. But why ultra or topo? They have a wider toe box. So for me, I like the wide toes, especially when I'm doing a lot of downhill work or big stuff like the canyon. I want room in my shoe for my foot to move around and do what it's supposed to do. Okay, so again, that's preference. Some people like a narrower shoe, like Solomon, and some of those shoes were narrow. I think Hoka's are wide too, but you got. But if all you do is wear padded shoes and you don't do your foot stuff, you're going to end up at the podiatrist's office. I can almost guarantee that. Okay. All right. So let's look at some other questions we have here. What's it's a nutrition question. What's the best thing to eat the night before, and what food would I bring for a rim to river? Hmm. Now, if you're asking me, I love nutrition questions for Coach Arnie because I don't eat a lot. Now, I've got it, and that if I'm in shape, if I'm healthy, I don't eat a lot. So if I'm by myself and I'm doing a rim to river, I probably wouldn't have anything besides maybe because I use ketones, amino acids, and water with salt in it. So I'll get down there, refill my water bottles, and come back up, and I'll use ketones. And but again, all this has been practiced. All this has been practiced prior to me setting foot on the trail. So I'm talking about the trail right now. So if I'm doing ketones, amino acids, and water, I'm ready to go. Now, the night before, I normally have a little bit of carb. I love white rice, and but you have to find out what works for you. So if you like a certain meal, like potatoes, rice, or something like, a lot of people feel they need a lot of carbohydrates. I like carbohydrates the night before, but I also get a lot of protein the night before as well. I generally have a big steak. I generally eat a big steak the night before any big training run or for sure any canyon run. So when I go to the canyon, I bring my steak, and unless I can go get it, but when I did my R5, I brought a microwave in my room, so I was able to heat up when I wanted. Um, but that's me. That's because I eat that all the time. So I do not experiment with anything prior to a big hike, especially a rim to river. Okay. So, and then I have my coffee. I always have my coffee. I call it my bulletproof plus coffee because I'll put in, and I think Pat got to watch me make this the other day, and her eyebrows kind of raised up because I use instant coffee now. I used to make the coffee, but instant became a little easier. I put in my hot water, my instant coffee, my protein powder, my scoop of protein powder. I put in MCT oil. I put some mushroom stuff in there. I put some gelatin in there. I know. That's for my tendons. My gelatin, and I think I put in some creatine? I think creatine. And then, this is the fun part. Everybody gets to have fun with this. I put in heavy cream. I put in some, uh, a dose of heavy cream in there, mix it up, and that's what I had for my R5. Um, Bam. And you can ask, Super Dave Newman because he was with me, and, that's what I had. In the morning before I took off, that's all I made. That meal right there, and I was off and running. And the next day, that was what I had again, same exact thing. And then, but a rim to river, which is 5,000 feet up and 5,000 feet down, that's something that needs to be practiced, especially at your pace. So if you're doing it in, 3 or 4 hours down and 4 and 5 hours up, that's a 9, 10, maybe 11, 12 hour day. So you're going to have to really think about what you're eating. A lot of people like to fall back on the salty stuff, the whatever stuff. That's fine. I don't care about any of that as long as you practice it prior to you doing it, you know? And if it works for you, then that's what you put in your pack. I was working with somebody today from Ohio who's doing a rim to river next month and with a one night in Phantom. But we were going over what is going in, and I helped her order some stuff. And we're going over what's going in that pack. What's she going to eat? We're going over the whole schedule. What's she going to eat? Her pace, all that stuff. So it's very important that you know and practice with what you're going to put in your mouth and it goes in your belly because belly stuff will ruin everything. Yeah, belly stuff will ruin everything. So, so that's a good one. And again, um, any of these questions that you want more information on, just call me or okay, so now I've got my dashboard ready to go. So Brian, Cindy, hi. Canyon Clowns are represented. Oh, that's Jeff. Jeff, yours was the first question, I believe. And then Cindy's watching as best. And Trish, I walk backwards, uphill repeats. Good job, Trish. The only reason sometimes, haha, I still buy used shoes. Good job, Brian. Um, and Karen's here. Hey, Karen. All right, cool. Okay, so yeah, the only problem with I have with walking backwards uphill, if you have knee problems, because a lot of people that are walking backwards have knee problems, is you got to come downhill. But if it works for you as a training, getting bulletproof, getting stronger for the downhill, then go backwards uphill. But again, I'm the downhill guy, so I love going downhill hard. And I always tell people when they see me training at Black Mountain, our favorite training place here, if they see me coming down hard at the end, it means I'm finishing up. But my other theory is that I train the downhill harder at Black Mountain than I do at the canyon because one, Black Mountain's steeper than the canyon, and two, it makes the canyon a lot easier to me when I'm going hard at Black Mountain on the downhill because I want my quads, I want my hips, I want my feet, and I want my anterior tibia. I want all those muscles to be really worked because I'm training. I'm training when I'm training. So that's why I got to get back to training because so that's important. All right. So here's one. Karen, Karen, hiking strategy with less shade on the north side. How to time the sun beating down your hike start time beat. And that's where Brian's shade tracker is really good. But my theory is this: if I'm on the north, because I'm not a big fan of north south unless it's a cool day. I call it the north south because we used to get this question all the time. And north south is traditional way. You know, that's the way most people did it because they're walking towards their hotel, they're walking towards their car, they're walking towards everything. But I call it the cow route because that's what cows do. Cows just follow along the other cows. So south north is the buffalo route because buffaloes go opposite of what the cows do. Okay. And let me explain. So when you go north south, um, you're going to run into heat unless you go on a cool day. It doesn't really matter which direction you go. But on a hot day or potentially hot day, um, if you go north south, unless you're Jim Walmsley or something, you're going to run into a disaster at Phantom Ranch and up the north and up to South Rim, hopefully up Bright Angel. But it's going to be hot. You're going to come up out of there in the middle of the afternoon, and it's not going to feel good. You're going to roast. So, and then you're going to hear the other theories of waiting at Phantom and all that stuff. Which you can do that. I'm just not a fan of that. Like, I wanna get out of there, okay? I got things to do, but at the same time, because it's so hard to start and stop, it is hard to start and stop. But if that's what you plan to do, then do it. But if you don't plan to do it, then it becomes a disaster. So, which we're trying to help you avoid is disaster. So what do I do? And I know this is crazy, but I go south north because now I can time my start on the by the temperature. And and so if I need to get through Phantom Ranch when it's cool, then I will start whatever time I need to on the top of the South Rim. Now, let's go back to the North Rim. And I've had many people do this. I had a couple guys do it last June. And I said, look, if you're going to come off the North Rim, you got it. It was June the 5th. They might even be on this call. I don't know. But you got to start at midnight. Midnight. And they did. They got a ride from the lodge. It was the night the lodge had lost power, so they got a shower though. But they got a ride to the trailhead at midnight. They started right on time, and they got down to Phantom Ranch around sunrise. And I said, and you have to be at tip off by 8 a.m. to make this work. Right on schedule. They hit tip off at 8 o'clock, and they shot right up and they were out of there before it got brutally hot. but they trained for that, and we went over it and over it and over it and over it. But I knew their speed, so I said, with with your pace, you got to start at midnight. And so that's how you do the North Rim when it's hot. Now, when it's cool, it doesn't matter. When the canyon's open, it doesn't matter. You can go anytime. But you know, most people are going, when it's still hot at the bottom. So when you start on the North Rim, most of the people, whether it's October or September, it's still kind of hot. It's just the way it is. And certainly it's like that in May. I've been down there in May last couple years. I missed this one, but the year before, and it was a disaster down there. Let's say at Phantom Ranch because it was hot. It was hot. This year was a little cooler. I missed my trip, but my folks that I trained, two rookies, they went south north, two complete rookies, and they nailed it. They started right on time, and it was a cooler May, thank God. But they came out of there with smiles on their face, and life is good. But the plan was to park their car on the North Rim, which they did. They shuttled back, and it worked out great. So everything I do, though, Karen, is based on weather. Um, Brian's shade tracker will give you some ideas on that too. But shade tracker or not, when it's 120 at Phantom Ranch, it's 120 at Phantom Ranch. Okay. So, so let's go back to our other questions we had here. And if you got more, just let me know. I think somebody else had a question. Oh, here's one. Do you use bladder or collapsible flask? I do not use a bladder anymore. I do not use a bladder anymore. And here's why. And I was playing this to somebody last week. Uh, when I have a bladder, and people I've worked with bladders too, it's harder to keep track of how much you're drinking. And with bottles, I know exactly how much I'm drinking. So I'm going to use one bottle to get to this point. I'm going to use one bottle to get to that point, or so many miles, depending on the temperature. I know exactly what's going in those bottles, and I know exactly how much I'm drinking. Also with bladders, because some people like to put stuff in the bladder with the water, whether it's some kind of electrolyte mix, some flavored drink. It's all good. I don't really care. But if you're not doing well, or after so many hours, you might get sick of that taste. Guess what? Now you got to do. You got to empty the bladder out, and that's a hassle. So I don't do bladders anymore, but I do bottles. And for some people that's a hassle, but it's okay. Now the collapsible things are okay. A couple reasons I'm not a huge fan. I've used them because you drink them. I have a tendency to drink too much because you're kind of squeezing them out. And but the convenience is once they're empty, you just scrunch them up and throw them in your pack, and then you fill them back up at the next one. But either way, there's good and bad with all that. I like the bottles because I know exactly how much I'm drinking. Okay, I know exactly how much I'm drinking, and it keeps me on pace to not over drink because very important. I think Brian's had Dr. Myers on many times, and I think that's the number one cause of issues is hypernutremia, which is you're over drinking because people panic, especially if it's hot. They over drink. So don't do that. All right, let's look at here. So that's my reasoning behind that. Um, Here another shoe question. How do you know if your shoes fit correctly? They don't hurt? No. Because you're training them. You know, do not go to the canyon with new shoes. That's a no-no. But I paid that price one time by wearing shoes that I got a blister 2 R3s in a row, and my first R5, I brought them along with me, but I also brought my old ones with me that never gave me blisters. And of course, did the first R3, no blisters. I thought, oh, I'm past all that. So what did I get on the second one? A blister, while the other shoes were sitting in the trunk of my car. So, um, you practice with the shoes you're gonna wear, and you just gotta make sure they fit correctly. And so that's and if you're doing a lot of downhill work, you're gonna get your toes scrunched, but you gotta strengthen up those toes so you don't let them just fly around in your shoes either. You got to learn how to press down with the big toe a little bit so you can kind of manage how they sit in your shoes. You want them spread out a little bit, hopefully. At least I do. And you got to check, see how they fit on your heels and all that stuff with the socks you want to wear. Shoes are a big deal. That's why I spend so much time on the feet and the shoes. So, but practice. You're going to hear me say that probably more than anything is practice, 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 practice. Okay. So that's a shoe question. Here's another. I live in the Midwest. I've never been to AZ. What's the best way to train for my planned trip in March of 2027? I'd like to go somewhere below the rim. Um, I kind of touched on that already. Um, Depending on how far down you want to walk back down, but walking backwards. You got to prepare because going downhill, even if you go to UHA, Cedar Ridge, or mile and a half or 3 mile, that downhill, if you're a rookie and you're untrained, will just annihilate your legs. So at least be prepared for that. If you're prepared for that, then the top of the rim will draw you out. It will pull you up. Okay. And if your legs are a little bit fresh, you'll finish. But if you're wiped out, that makes it really hard. So at least get walking backwards. If you can pull a sled, push a car, do some things like that, work on your anterior tibs, work on your hip flexors. That's the best way, just like I shared earlier. But you got to be intentional about all that. You got to be intentional. And that will help you to want to come back. The goal is come back. I don't want to create a bunch of one-offs. I want you guys to come back because the canyon is a magical place. Okay. I don't want you to get beat up and say, "Whew, I'm done with that." Okay. That's no good. All right. So here's one. Are gels good to use? Sure. I mean, I've used gels. Um, I used to carry these nut butter things down in the canyon until I got sick of using those. But whether it's nut butters, gels, hammer gels, whatever you want to call them. Some have caffeine in them, different flavors. It's usually about 100 calories of usually sugar, and that's okay. But just remember, practice. So if it's hot and you're slamming down a bunch of gels and throwing water on top of that, I got news for you. Your gut may have a talk with you. So if you're going to use gels, pick a hot day and go out and go for a walk and start eating them. See if it works for you. But and if it does, fine. I mean, hey, the top guys in the world use gels. So I just choose not to. I choose to use more of a whole food approach unless on top of my ketones. Okay. I do carry extra like uh, uh, fruit and stuff like that just in case I need it. But if your stomach goes, it's hard. It's hard to recover from that. So just be aware of that. Practice with that. But a lot of people use gels, and there's a ton of gels out there. You know, go for it. Oh, here's a little question on undergarments, cotton, bamboo, something else. Um, I guess I can share this story. When I did my R5, and if I don't know if Dave's on, he might be on, but I was unpacking all my gear, and I left off one thing off my list, which which was on my list, my underwear. So, and I had tights, so I was fine. But Dave and I drove around for an hour. We went to every store in the village, every store in Tucson. I I I don't use cotton. I use all my stuff is, and again, some people like the feel of cotton. Um, the nylon stuff works for me, so that's what I use. And all the way around, even in my shirt, my socks, I've switched over to alpaca, which is wool, and they're great. They're super comfortable, and especially if you're a heavy sweater, it makes a big difference. But But yeah, so as far as undergarments, a lot of people like cotton because it's cooler and all that good stuff, or whatever they want. Or they like shirts that are cotton so they can soak them and all that. I don't do a lot of that stuff. And if you are doing that, then practice. Find a t-shirt that works for you for that. I mean, and if it works, heck, do it. You know, do it. Um, but for a lot of people, cotton is very comfortable. And bamboo, I don't really know a lot about bamboo. I hear it's great. Okay. So there you go. If you have more questions about undergarments, let me know. Um, JD, high top versus low cut running. I have always worn Merle. I guess what, JD? I switched over a few years ago to high top. I like the topo high top. They feel good. I like them. They give me a little ankle. I don't have them on tight, but they give me a little ankle stability. I wear high tops when I'm hiking, hiking boots. I wear Merle hiking boots. They're kind of, they look like Frankenstein shoes, but they're solid. They have a nice vibrant sole. And so I can hammer down the mountain in those things. But I don't have those. But for whatever reason, I just get a little bit better ankle stability, although I train my ankles really hard. Um, but I don't know. I like I wore a low cut for a long time, but I don't know. I like the high top, but I don't have them on super tight. Okay, I just don't have them on super tight. But if you have ankle issues, if you're wearing them for ankle issues, then I would train my ankles. I would do because we do these specialty ISO movements for our ankles, and I'm telling you what, it works. Because everybody that talks to me about ankle stuff, they say, "Wow, this my ankles feel a lot better doing this stuff." And they do. So you can combine that with a high top, you're good to go, man. I tell you what. All right. So I don't know. I would try them out. Here, Jeff's got another good question. Okay, do you take salt tablets, electrolytes, or something else? Um, Something else. So what I came up with years ago, and this is my system now, because I do carry electrolytes with me just in case. I was just looking, I thought I had a bottle up here. But what I came up with was I use Redmond salt, which is a really high quality salt. I get it at Sprouts. And I have a measure of, for a 24-ounce bottle, I put in a heaping 1/8 teaspoon. Heaping. And that works perfect for me. Now you got to know your sweat rate. You got to know what you can tolerate as far as taste. But it just works perfect. And I rarely have cramping issues because cramping is normally because the science behind cramping is terrible. Okay. It usually means you're going too hard for your level of fitness, which means if it's on a hot day and you're still trying to go at your normal pace, you might cramp. Get it? So you have to adjust. So whatever, if you overdo your level of fitness, there's a good chance you might come up with a cramp. All right. And I've had horrible cramps, man, in the canyon. One time I was coming down the North Rim, I felt like somebody shot me in the leg. It's like, wow. I mean, I went down, boom. I was less than a mile from the top. So the point is, uh, I do carry, I have the salt tab. They're in my bag. So I do carry the salt tabs with me, Jeff, for an emergency. So, but the only electrolytes I use is um, red mist salt. I mean, besides my ketones, but ketones aren't really an electrolyte. Okay. And my amino acids. Amino acids technically aren't a electrolyte either. Okay. So that's a good question though, because that's something we have to figure out. That's something you have to figure out. And when I tell people water and salt and water, they go, hmm. But you know what? Sometimes the simplest um, I ideas are the best ideas. So it's something to think about, guys. All right, let's see what else we have here. I'm overwhelmed and don't know where to start with my training in nutrition. Oh, do you offer an online training? Well, I do. I do offer an online training. So, I just started working with a lady in Washington, D.C. She's trying to put together a group. But anybody that's listened to Coach Arnie and his rants about group, um, I did talk to her about it. So there's a potential of a group, and then there's a potential of me working with her to get her ready to do the canyon, and then helping her maybe to manage the group. But groups are interesting only because of the dynamics of the weakest link. But but as far as training, yes. So I have quite a number of clients around the country. And if you're lucky, as Pat Garner would say, if you're lucky enough to live here, you can have Coach Arnie put his hands on you. You can come over here and let me see what's going on and help you out. Because we have fun. We have fun when you train at the dungeon, and I teach you all the moves. And then once you learn everything, even the subtle nuances. Now, to get the really deep stuff, you got to really spend some time. But to get the subtle nuances that are going to keep you healthy, strong, and allow you to do all the things you want to do. So if you want to run 100-mile races, if you want to hike the canyon, you want to do R3, you want to do rim to rims, you want to do rim to river, you want to go to Uha Point. I don't really care. You can learn how to train for all of that. Okay. Because it's basically the same thing. I'm training two guys now that want to do Mount Everest. And guess what they're doing? They're doing the same stuff that we're all doing. And I kind of get to chuckle because I get to go um, chuckle with some of the ladies. I'm saying, hey, those guys are struggling with what you guys are making look easy. Got it? So, because it just works. So we teach you a system, it works. And whether you're in Ohio, got a team of people coming out from Ohio next month, and just they're around. So, so the answer to that question is yes. And you can always message me. You got my phone number now in the comments. You can call me, and we'll set something up. At least find out if I can help you in any way. All right, let's see here. And we got maybe here's another question here. I struggle with plantar fasciitis, and my doctor says I need a special orthotic for shoes. They're not comfortable in my hiking shoes and not sure what to do. What's your recommendations? I bet everybody knows that answer. Strengthen your feet. One of my best clients, and he was not a hiking client, but he was a young man that I coached in football. At the time, it would have been 40, from today, it would be 43 years ago, 44 years ago. And he came to me. He had just left the podiatrist's office, and he had his fancy orthotics in his grasp, okay, in the bag. So he came over and he goes, Coach, what should I do? So I said, well, let me take a look, see what's going on. So I showed him a few things, and he goes, okay, let's start working. He, I went over to his house. I was helping him set up a gym in his house because he's a big shot pilot with FedEx. And he goes, "Oh yeah, over there." Because I noticed there was a bag of something in the corner. He goes, those orthotics I brought over to you. I never used them." That's the best compliment I could have got. Okay, and he wasn't a hiker. He wasn't any of that stuff. He just didn't want foot problems, and so he did the exercises, and he did them religiously for quite a while. I mean, we worked for close to a year, and he solved his foot problem. Okay. So to answer that question on plantar fasciitis or any other foot issue, because what drove me into it was something called metatarsalgia, which is an irritation of the second metatarsal on my foot. And I got scared because back then that was 10 years ago. And everything I looked up online said surgery. And I didn't want no part of that. I wanted no part of surgery. So I'm just looking here if there's any other questions. So, so as far as um, my thinking is, you're almost going to have to do what I did back then. If you're dealing with this stuff, maybe not hike. You know, let's get those feet stronger. Let's do some barefoot work, gentle barefoot work, not hardcore barefoot work where you wreck your feet. Let's gentle, maybe on some grass. Okay. And let's get our feet stronger. Let's strengthen up the big toe. Let's stretch those calves because chances are you're overworking your calves, which is what most people have that have plantar fasciitis. I go up to them and I just touch and push on the outside or the inside of their calf and they jump. And there's Coach Arnie going at it again, grabbing their calves. And because I know, get it? And it's, or their arches are weak. So we got to strengthen the arch. We got to strengthen their anterior tibialis to take pressure off the calves. We got to strengthen their soleus. That's the muscle between the gastrocnemius and the calf muscle and the Achilles tendon. We got to strengthen that muscle because that'll take pressure off the Achilles tendon, which will take pressure off the foot. See, there's a method to my madness. It's all interrelated. And you do all these things, and over time, the pain goes down. And then as the pain drops, you keep getting stronger, stronger. And pretty soon, you're bulletproof. And that's what we want to be. Who wants foot problems? Are you kidding me? That's the worst. Uh, You got to stand on those two things all the time. That's terrible. Okay. So we don't want that. So that's kind of my advice on plantar fasciitis. Hang on a second. Get to my questions. So my recommendation is stop hiking with plantar fasciitis. Get your feet stronger. Get a system that you can work on your feet so you can get your feet healthy again. Remember, health, fit, and then bulletproof. But you got to get healthy first. And if you're neglecting your health, guys, I don't care if it's your feet or the top of your head, your shoulders, your back. If you're neglecting something like that, you got to pay a price. There's a price for that. Okay. So let's get healthy. All right, guys, we're going to wind down here. Hey, this is pretty cool. So we had some good questions and there's some cool people on here. Um, Gloria Martinez, it was me. Okay, I'm not sure. Was that one of your questions? Probably. I'm not sure, but I appreciate all you guys being here. Um, I appreciate Brian giving us this opportunity by putting this group together. And in the meantime, you've got my phone number. You can call me uh, with Pat pushing me. I'll be doing this again. Let's think about next month. I'll find it'd be summer months are a little tricky, but I'd like to do it as we're closing in on that fall rim to rim schedule because this is when I notice a lot of foot problems and other issues like tendonitis because we ramp up our training and we have problems. Get it? That's how tendonitis happens. Doing too much too fast, bam. I'm dealing with a guy right now. I thought he was going to cry the other night, you know, because I'm basically telling him to do nothing, but he wanted to really do nothing. And I said, no. I said, we're going to do things that don't hurt. But of course, that means he can't walk or run. So that's no good. But he started off too fast. He started off too fast. And that's going to happen here in the next month. People are going to start off too fast. They're going to get tendonitis in their hips, their knees, their feet, and here we go. So let's see if we can avoid that. So we'll do another Q&A next month. We'll figure out a date to do that, and we'll have some fun with it. We had some good questions today. We got, I don't know, looks like close to 10 questions. That's really good for an hour. So I appreciate everybody here. And like I said, if anybody has further questions, you can message me or you can call me or you can message me on my 602 number and we'll figure it out for you. So because we want to solve these problems. I don't want these things to be weighing you guys down. We want to move forward. Okay. So again, thank you guys very much. I appreciate all of you. And just going to double check here, seeing any other questions. Oh, Brian just put in a few minutes ago. At North Kaibab currently shades by 5 p.m. See, Brian's the expert here. By 5 p.m. from Manzanita, which is where the real climbing starts. Shade starting at Manzi. Yeah. If you get to Manzi by, again, if you time, but again, if you're going to get to Manzanita, it depends on which way you're going. So if you're going up, you're kind of waiting at Manzanita till 5. That's when the shade hits. But if you're coming down, this is where it's tricky. So we need to talk about this. So that's a the sun is the thing in the canyon, but you got to know how to deal with it. It gets into Coach Arnie's brain about practice. Okay. And if that's what you're choosing to do, then you practice. But if Karen is the Karen I know, when I took her husband and her daughter, we went up the North Rim and it was a beautiful day. But we finished at noon. So run the numbers, guys. So it was a glorious day. All right. So if there's no other questions, I appreciate everybody here, Brian and all you guys that were here, Pat for pushing me, and Jeff and JD, Karen, and the rest, Cindy and everybody else, Monica, and Luciana, and here's one. We will have more. Okay, good. So we'll keep this going, guys, and I appreciate everybody being here, and I'm out of here. Love you guys. Talk to you later.